What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And I am back with my top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. And this week we have 5 bets for UFC 311, which goes down over in the Inuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. And shout out to all the people over in California and in Los Angeles. It's obviously been a very, very tough time with all the wildfires and everything that's gone on over there. So I think as Dana White was saying, if we can give people a little bit of a release from that on Saturday night, and maybe even with this show as well, that would be something, I suppose. But it's very, very tough, obviously. So a big shout out to all of those people dealing with that struggle over there. And I suppose what this event signals is the first big event of the year. We had a great card last week, and obviously we'll look back at those bets here now in a second. But this is the big pay-per-view event, and we've talked about it a lot in shows recently about how you start the year, and is it right, to start with a bigger event, or are you better off starting with, I suppose, the type of event we have last week? And I think if you produce an event like they had last week, which was an unbelievably good card, I think you're fine, but that's not always going to happen. And I would suggest going for a bigger card, because it whets the appetite a little bit, doesn't it, for the year ahead, and it gets you excited, because we've been a while without the UFC. There's been MMA on, obviously, and we have Risen, and obviously the PFL a while back, and we had Cage Warriors and every sort of thing, and Octagon and a lot since I suppose the last UFC, and a great KSW card as well. But to start the year with a bang, I think, is probably the way I would suggest going. But 2025 has worked out well, and we'll hit this year. We'll hit this year hard, and we'll go at it, because I think it's going to be a great year for the world of mixed martial arts, and hopefully a great year for the betting as well. Please bet responsibly as I start this show, but have some fun with it as well at the same time. So let's recap last week, and it was a pretty good week. We had 3 out of 4 of our main bets hit. The one big one that didn't hit was, I suppose, the worst priced bet. The one you think a lot of you might have hit, but it didn't, and it was minus 198 for Amanda Hebas. Obviously, Mackenzie Dern put on a fantastic performance and won that fight. But the flyer as well didn't hit. We Kopylov by submission at plus 2,000, which was a big one. We were gone for a little bit of a lesser of a flyer this week. But that didn't. But the other 3 didn't hit. So we had Almeida by knockout, and obviously he had a great comeback knockout, a big left hook, which I love to see. Panzanibio, again, a bit of a comeback there, a great win for him. And then Punahela Seriano, we didn't have to wait long for that one. So that was plus 170, minus 125 for Panzanibio, plus 130 for Almeida. I think I would go with 2 out of 3 of them being good bets. I think the Panzanibio bet at minus 125, judging by how the fight went, probably wasn't the best bet in the world. But look, it was a winning bet, and not a terrible price. So we'll absolutely take it, and we'll bring the money into this week, and hopefully make even more out of it if we can. So interesting way to start the year. So 3 from 4 and 0 on the flyer hit. After we went 53.73% last year. If you haven't seen my recap of last year, I have a podcast from a couple of days ago. Just scroll back down here on the feed, and you'll see it, and recapped all the bets from last year. Put them up on screen, and also you can check those out over there. Right, let's get to it. What I'm going to do here, first of all, actually, so we last year we did a bit of a parlay for the pay-per-views, and I'm going to do that here, but I'm going to kind of pick it as I go this year instead, right? So a little bit of maybe interactive, a little bit of fun here as I go. So I'm going to pick maybe 4, maybe 5 people, possibly big enough prices, and we'll see where the parlay goes. So the first one I'm going to go with here, I'm going to go with Rinya Nakamura, best price minus 480 against Gufarov. We'll talk more about the prices again later on as well. I'm going to go for Tagir Ulanbekov against Clayton Carpenter, who's kind of a newcomer. He's minus 300. I'm going to go with Payton Talbott, who's a big favorite here at minus 1,200. And then I'm going to go with Jailton Almeida, who's a big enough favorite as well, at minus +140. So that gives us a parlay of +114, just over even money for Nakamura, Ulanbekov, Talbott, and Almeida. So there you go. Maybe that's the thing we'll do. And maybe people don't like that. Maybe I should put more previous into it. Maybe, but I don't think it worked out for us. Well, no, it did. Our parlays have worked out well before. So I think we'll try it that way for a while, and we'll see how it goes. So the parlay of the week: Nakamura, Ulanbekov, Talbot, and Almeida for a +114. Not the biggest price in the world, but hopefully 4 guys that will end up winning here. So that is the pay-per-view parlay for UFC 311. So let's get to our bets for the week. First bet I'm going to go for is from the main event. Let's start where we're all thinking of, I suppose, this weekend. And I'm going to go for Islam Makhachev to win by decision at +105. So Makhachev to win straight up. Best price is -350. He's outwards of -400 in certain places. And I'll be honest, and I'm looking forward to talking about these top 2 fights here, because I went into, and I know a lot of people maybe do this, I went into my tape study expecting one thing from both of the top 2 fights, and I suppose I got something different from both of them. For the Makhachev-Tsarukyan one, I went in expecting myself to be maybe a little bit torn on who I was picking as the winner. And I came out being like really assured in my pick being Islam Makhachev. I just think it's a really, really, really tough matchup. Went back and watched the first fight, and obviously it was on short notice and all of that. But I can't help but look at the skill set of both of these guys, how the skill sets of both of these guys have developed, and not think Makhachev is going to win it. And we'll talk about the decision in a second, but I think, like, look, a big, you know, what are those, do you know, those mathematical equations, like to find the next set of twin primes and all of that? People have been spending years trying to find them. And what MMA fans have been trying to do is find a way to beat the Dagestani fighters, you know? And I feel like, I feel like the thoughts around that are, you need someone very, very well rounded and elite in a certain area to be able to get to them. Right, to the best of the best. I don't think Tsarukyan meets that. First of all, let's talk about the striking. I don't think he's as good a striker as Islam Makhachev. I think Makhachev is a better striker. I think he's more technical. I actually think he probably hits harder as well. And when you talk about the grappling, Makhachev is I think definitely a better wrestler. If you talk about grappling on the ground and transitions and all of that, I think it's maybe a wash. If you're to lean one way, you might lean Makhachev, but Tsarukyan is elite, really, really good in the transitions and great jiu-jitsu. And, you know, again, the transitions, the in between the wrestling and what happens after wrestling, whether it's more wrestling or the fight getting to the cage or standing up or whatever, he is one of the best in the world in that position. The problem is he's fighting Islam Makhachev, who is one of the best ever in that position, you know, in mixed martial arts. Plus he has the striking and all of that. It's very hard to see a way forward. Now, I haven't watched the first fight back again. What did that prove? It proved that Arman is not afraid. It proved that he can hang with Makhachev. And it proves that he will continue to attempt to impart his game against anyone. And that's why I think the fight will go to a decision. Because I don't think there will be a time during this fight where Tsarukyan will give up or give in. Like, and I'll give you a counterproductive stat here, but 7 of the last 8 fights of Makhachev have been finished. He's won inside the distance. Now, he had a good few decisions before that, including against Tsarukyan, but the one decision he went to was against Volkanovski, right? And a very close fight in a guy who's not afraid of him and is able to bring it to him in a certain way, which most people can't. And I think that'll be the case here. Now, I think the first part of it, again, not afraid of him, will go at him, will believe he can win. And the second part is, I think his transitions are, I've said before, I don't think he's as good, especially on the feet, but not on the ground. But I think his transitions are so good and are so competitive that will keep him in this fight and stop him from getting finished. Which is a big thing again for, anyone really against someone as good as Islam Makhachev, because he is so fantastic and so good that, it's almost a compliment to say to someone that, that they won't get finished by him. When maybe it doesn't necessarily sound like that, but I think it is. So that's my thoughts on it. That's the pick. Makhachev to win by decision plus 105. Just maybe a tad more on how I think the fight will go. Like, I think Makhachev will actually be relatively happy and are very happy to keep the fight standing. In the first fight, there was an awful lot of kind of tie clinches that turned into like wrestling overhead clinches in the middle of the cage. And it was Herb Dean, I think, at the time, just let it go and let it go and let it go. I think if that's the case here, where it's let go an awful lot, I think it's a massive thing for Makhachev, because as long as he's in that position, he's fine. And the biggest part for Saryukin, I think, he needs to win the in-between bits in terms of not just the positions, but actually what's done in those positions. He just didn't land enough in the first. Like, he didn't put in get a dominant position where he can look for a submission, where he can look to finish. He didn't land, they both land in their knees and lands a massive uppercut under the arm and hurts him, or he didn't land he didn't cut him or anything. Like, Saryukin has to do that. He has to. And I just don't think he will, and I think Makhachev will win it, and I think he'll win the decision. So there you go. Bet number 1. Let's talk about bet number 2. I'm going to go with the co-main event here, and I couldn't look past this price. I'm going for Merab Dvalishvili at plus 260. Let me just make sure that's the updated price. Yes, plus 260 still here. He's around that price. That is the best price, but he's around that price everywhere. I see other places here. He's plus 250, plus 250, plus 245. So that is I would say an accurate price for him. All right, I talked about the tape watching for the last fight. Let's talk about the tape watching for this fight. I went into this honestly thinking, right, Umar Nurmagomedov. I can't believe I messed up that name. I've been saying Nurmagomedov for like a decade now. He's the next iteration. He's the next guy. He's so good. It's going to be hard. We know how good Merab is, but it's going to be hard for anyone to really beat him. 18-0 and all that. But I'll be honest, I watched both of them fight, a good few of their fights, and I came out of it thinking there isn't really a massive advantage for Nurmagomedov anywhere, in my opinion. Now, the one thing I would say, and I'll pop back to that specific point, but I'll go into like a specific of the specific. He could have a massive advantage in the wrestling, right? So we all know what Merab has done for a long time, apart from the last couple of fights. He just wrestled and wrestled and wrestled and wrestled and wrestled. Not being utterly successful in the wrestling, right? But he just continued to do it. So like for a lot of people, if they get 5 takedowns in a fight, that's successful to the wrestling. If they get 30, it's probably not successful because they haven't been able to hold the lad down. But Merab weaponized that and was exceptional at doing it. Now, when he fights Umar, will he be able to do that is one question. The other question is, will Umar be able to take him down and get those I don't think Umar is going to get 30 takedowns against Merab, right? But will he be able to get those 5 takedowns or 6 or 7 takedowns against Merab that might be needed? That's a big question, right? And I think that's a question that very few people sitting in my seat will be able to answer. Umar might be able to answer it. Merab might be able to answer it, but I think very few people. And do you know what? Maybe they won't be able to answer it. Pre-fight anyway. It'll be answered during the fight, but I think that's very interesting. So that to me, I think. Look, a lot of people, and going by the betting lines, a lot of people are going to have their opinions, and a lot of people's opinion is that Merab is going to win, that Umar is going to win that part of it. And then we talk about the striking. Now, it's weird, again, I'll just add at this point, and this is getting back to the original point, I suppose, when we get into striking here in a second, but these lads have never really fought anyone like each other, right? So for Merab, the last time he fought Sean O'Malley, before that Cejudo, and you could argue Cejudo isn't a million miles, but that fight was a bit different. It was, a lot of striking. It didn't really come alight in the way you would expect a wrestler versus wrestler matchup, I suppose. Jan, Aldo, Moraes, Stamen, Dodson. There's no one there like Umar. You look at Umar, he's fought Corey Sandhagen and then a load of lads who are like not on the level before that, and some good guys in there, but this is a very different matchup for both of them. So we're looking at old tape, and a lot of it is like, you can compare the tape of Merab versus O'Malley to the tape of Nurmagomedov versus Sandhagen, because Sandhagen and O'Malley are not massively dissimilar. Now, again, go with me here for a second. And in that, I think you can look at what Dvalishvili did and look at what Umar did on the feet when it turned into like a striking, or when it turned into a long range battle. And I think Merab did, even though Merab wasn't as dominant, I think Merab looked probably better than Umar did. And that's a weird thing for me to say, maybe, considering how much, how Umar won the fight, but also how Umar did obviously wrestle a lot, as did Merab in that fight. And, there was other reasons apart from the striking, how they won it. But for the striking itself, I think Umar looked a bit clunky. He didn't look as comfortable. He didn't look amazing closing the distance with the striking. Now, closing the distance with wrestling is a different thing. He looked amazing doing that. But if this turns into a fight where the wrestling is even, who's going to win the striking? I think that was a question a lot of people are asking themselves, and I think a lot of people would have probably said, Umar. But having gone back and watched it, and especially what Merab has looked like recently, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to say Merab might win the striking matchup. And I also don't think when you're giving me the price of plus 260 to base it off of that, I think that's a great price. I think, and like, there is also the possibility that Merab might out wrestle him and might put a pace on him that's too much for him, and Umar might be able to handle it. He's only fought Corey Sandhagen and no one else at the top level. Could it be a bit early for him? Who knows, right? Look, there's a reason Umar is a favourite. He's obviously an unbelievably talented guy, and I might sound like I'm dragging down Umar here, but this is the betting show. This is the point of this. I'm trying to find a good price for you, and that's the one I found. Plus 260, Merab Dvalishvili. Right, next bet. I'm kind of going with one of my for the I went back and forth in these, to be honest, on a couple of these bets. And I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill at minus 120. Now I've literally changed that last minute, right? And the reason I have, so there's 3 lads in this card who I kind of like half fancy to win, but I'm not 100% sure on it. And I was back and forth on the 2, and I'll be honest, I fancy them all to win, right? I fancy them all to win, but I was back and forth on the 2 I would give, and I've decided to switch to Hill last second, right? So Jamahal Hill minus 120. And I'll be honest, coming into this, and he's fighting Yuri Prochazka. Coming into this, this was the first bet I picked out. This was the bet I liked the most. And kind of as the week went on, I'm coming a little bit unsure of myself. I just did one preview show there, and I'm like, will I give this? Won't I give this? But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stick with my original thought. So I am going to give this. And here's the reason why I'm giving this bet. Jamahal Hill is 15 fights into his career. He's 33 years of age, 6'4", big, fast, strong, and a very, very good fighter. Like, there's a lot with Jamal outside the cage and on Twitter, and people don't like him and all of that. But sometimes I'm not This isn't a personality contest or a beauty contest or anything. This is a fighting contest, and he's a very good fighter. And I would just wonder if Yuri Prochazka, who's younger than him in human years, but in fighter years, with 36 fights into his career, having been knocked out by Alex Pereira twice, knocked out 4 times in his career, been in a lot of fights now at this stage and fought a lot of rounds in the last few years. I wonder if he's going to be the same fighter as he was, right? For Hill, who's been out for a while and has dealt with injuries and stuff, I expect him to fight the way he's always fought. I think there's a question over Prochazka. And the other thing I would say, and I add these two things together, and this is why I'm picking Hill. How does Prochazka win a lot of his fights? I think he's the bigger, stronger, faster guy, weird style, surprises people. I think Hill is bigger, faster, stronger, more technical, and will do, I think, to Prochazka what Pereira was able to do to Prochazka that gave him real success. Now, I don't think he'll be able to do the exact same things, but if you go with me, like Pereira, faster, more technical fighter who hits harder, was a big issue for him. I think the same thing is going to occur here. I think Hill is just going to be too fast and too powerful. I think he's going to knock him out. And I think that'll look a better price afterwards than it looks now. Look, if Prochazka can get back to his best, absolutely, he's a chance against anyone. But I think Jamahal Hill, again, we have to, this is an issue with a lot of fighters like Colby and other people like that. You have to put aside maybe what you think of them outside the cage and look at what they are inside of the cage. And what Jamahal Hill is a damn good fighter. So I'm going to go with him. I'll tell you the bet I reneged on, and I was going to go for Kevin Holland. And the Ritter is fighting the Netherlands. And he was even money. But I just don't know. That's your old school striker versus grappler matchup. I do think Holland will win, but I'm backing out of it. And my other one, the one I am giving you, and this is a little bit based on price as well. Beneil Dariush at plus 150 against Renato Moicano. I just think that's a great price. The big issue with Hill, or with Dariush, is the issue I found with Prochazka. And you may say, Shawnee, why are you ignoring it with one and not with the other? I'll tell you the reason why I'm ignoring it with one and not with the other. I think with Hill and Prochazka, Hill is a bad matchup for Prochazka. I think Dariush is a bad matchup for Moicano. And I'll tell you why. Look, what does Moicano do? He throws his straight jab and his straight right hand behind it, and he's very good straight up and down, and then he wrestles lads an awful lot as well, right? So that's what he's become, a straight striker and a straight wrestler, and he's been very good at it. A guy who for a long time was a 50-50 fighter, good one fight, bad another fight, good one fight, bad another fight. A bit of me in the back of my brain is like, that's not gone out of him, and I think we'll see that from him again, and I'll just say that here. The other part of me thinks that what Moicano does not meld well with Dariush. Dariush is phenomenal on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is really good. You don't want to go to the ground with Dariush. And on the feet, Dariush hits really hard. And if you're not a power striker, now Moicano hits hard, but he's only 2 knockouts in his career. Right? Okay, one of them was the last one. And his last 2 fights, he's only 2 knockouts of his career, which is a bit mad. Is that right? Let me just double check that. It is right, yeah. That's crazy. A lot of submissions, obviously very good on the ground. But is he submitting Dariush? I don't think so. And does he have the one line? They were both TKOs last week. Does he have the one punch knockout power to knock out Dariush? I don't think so. Does Dariush have the one punch knockout power? Yes. Can Dariush submit him? I think he probably can, to be honest. Now, Moicano's only been submitted once in his career by Brian Ortega with a guillotine. One of the best of the best. But still, Dariush is up there as well. I think it's a bad matchup for Moicano. The only issue here is the Prochazka issue is one, I think is, and this is a bit different to the Hill, but Moicano is at a very good place in his career. It looks like Dariush, after losing 2, might be on the way down. 4 in a row in wins by Moicano. But the reason he's getting this fight against Dariush is because he's won 4 in a row. Again, people might be out there looking and feel free to fade me on this one. Feel absolutely free to do it. But I have a soft spot for Beneil Dariush. I think he's a real good skill set. Okay, I'll throw this out to you as well. The big issue with Beneil Dariush is he has unbelievably massive flaws. I just don't think that Moicano is going to expose those flaws. Like, the worst matchup possible for Beneil Dariush was Charles Oliveira. Why? Because Dariush is never going to submit him because Charles Oliveira has better jiu-jitsu than him, and Oliveira hits like an absolute truck and will throw shots early. Like, I gave that as a bet, knockout, and I was never sure in my whole life of a bet that Charles Oliveira would knock Beneil Dariush out. Never sure, because it's a horrible matchup for him. I just don't think Moicano is a horrible matchup for him. Now, if Dariush is not the fighter he used to be and is maybe, looking for one paycheck and then he's gonna, thanks for the cheese, good luck, lads, absolutely, that's a different story. But if Dariush looks somewhat back to his best or looks good, I think he'll beat Moicano every single day. I really do. I think he's a bad matchup for him. So there you go. Beneil Dariush at plus 150. Right. So have I given you the top 4 bets? I have. Actually, no. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to adjust this. And I'm going to bring back in, I had a flyer, right? There's a lot of movement going around here. There's a lot of movement. I'm going to bring back, in my Holland bet. I'll clarify this. At a plus 100. I'm going to give you Kevin Holland. We'll talk more about that in a second. And do you know what I'm going to do? My flyer of the week. I had another one here, but I didn't really fancy it. But do you know what? I do fancy this one. I'm going to give you Beneil Dariush to win inside the distance at plus 330. I think Dariush is going to hit him hard. And I think he's going to knock him out. Maybe knock him down and end up submitting him or something like that. But I really like Dariush in this fight. I really do. I think he's going to finish him. And that's the flyer, plus 330. On the Holland one then again, right? So here's why I think Holland will beat the Ritter. And he's plus 100. And I'll recap these bets at the end. Sorry about today. I'm all over the place. Kevin Holland, we've seen him out wrestled many times. I think the biggest issue for him is going to be that. But the biggest issue for the Ritter is, will he be able to be quick enough to get across the cage to take Holland down? And if he fails at that, will he continue to do it? Because he's had 2 issues throughout his career. Closing the distance to get across, and when he fails, he gives up on it. We saw it against Malyakin twice. If that happens against Holland, Holland's going to eat him up because he's so much quicker than him. He's going to land big shots on him. He's going to be confident enough to throw those shots. And it'll either be a bad matchup for the Ritter or a bad matchup for Holland. One will either get wrestled all over the place or one will get outstruck badly. And I'm going to lean on Holland. So there you go. Right. Makhachev inside the distance, plus 105. Merab, plus 260. Hill, minus 120. Holland, plus 100. And the flyer, Dariush, wins inside the distance, plus 330. Those are the 5 bets for the week. Is there anything else that stands out? Obviously, I gave you the parlay of the week as well. The only other thing I would think that stands out is I like Grant Dawson, right? And I like him to beat Diego Ferreira. But I think that price is a bit off. Like, Ferreira's looked so good recently. I know he's a little bit older, but he's plus 220. Grant Dawson not too long ago was beaten by Bobby Green. That price to me is off. I think that price is off. I like Carl Hosa. She's a big favourite. I like her there. Almeida's a big favourite. The interesting one with Almeida is, will he finish him, will he not? The fight to go to a decision is plus 265. And I'll be honest, I love that. I love that bet. Plus 265, fight goes to decision. That would definitely be one I'd look at. Talbott is too big. Talbott's so big of a favourite, you should probably bet Barcelos at plus 800. Like, Barcelos has only been finished twice in his career, I think. Talbott very young. This is the first up and come, but I love Talbott. I really like him, and as I said, I threw him into the parlay and all. But yeah, other than that, I don't have a whole lot, to be honest. There's some interesting underdogs like Rico Torquios at plus 275. I do think Sapage, I think he's really good. He will win. Be interesting to see what this Clayton Carpenter coming in here for his first foray into the big time against Ulanbekov will be like. But again, I wouldn't be betting on that. So yeah, those are the bets for the week. And I'll recap them again because it was a bit confusing. So Makhachev wins by decision, plus 105. Merab straight up plus 260. Holland straight up plus 100. Hill straight up minus 120. And Dariush wins inside the distance at plus 330. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate the support all last year. Let's have a great 2025. Let's win a load of money. And let's bet responsibly. From me, Sean Sheehan, this was Sherdog.com. Thank you very much. And I'll see you all next time.